that we are still waiting for a few people to join us, but we'll just continue to let them in as they come. Good morning and welcome to the RIAC Learning Series. My name is Vanessa Brewer and I'm the Regional Interagency Council Program Administrator. And my co-host is Lee Taylor. Lee is the State Interagency Council Program Administrator, and we work at the Department for Behavioral Health, Developmental, and Intellectual Disabilities. And before we get started with our session today, I want to let you know that the RIAC Learning Series sessions for July through December have been scheduled, and a flyer with registration info will be released today and shared via email, as well as listed in the chat box. And so as a reminder, they are always on the first Friday of the month at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they are always free. Anyone is welcome to attend, so please feel free to share this information with your system of care and community partners. Also, recordings of each session are stored on the RIAC's YouTube channel for viewing at a later time, and we will also post that in the chat box as well. Our presentation today is titled Parent Involvement in Action, and our presenters are Joy Varney, Tamarsha Beckman, and Amanda Metcalf. And before I turn it over to them for them to introduce themselves, I'd like to go over just a few housekeeping items. Excuse me. Please mute your mics if you haven't already. However, feel free to unmute during the session as needed if you have questions, comments, and or feedback. You are also welcome to use the chat box if you prefer for questions and comments, and Lee and I are going to be monitoring that during the session. This workshop will be recorded and it's going to be posted on the RIAC's YouTube channel, and we, like I said earlier, we will put that link in the chat box. A session evaluation link will also be posted towards the end of the session, so please take a moment to complete that at that time. And as always, certificates of attendance are available by request, so please email me if you'd like to have one, and I'll put my email in the chat box as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our presenters.
All righty. Thank you so much for taking your time out of this Friday morning, a beautiful Friday morning, to spend time with us and learn a little bit more about family engagement, recruitment, and all things parent involved. And the reason I put the puzzle piece here in this picture is because I think that, at least for me, it has taken years to put the puzzle pieces together with the system of care and just kind of figuring out like what it is and, you know, what we do and the language. And I, after 20 years, I still continue to learn. And, you know, and I think the same things go with the families and youth that we serve. The puzzle pieces come together for them and they become leaders in the community, but sometimes it just takes a while. And so the puzzle pieces just represented to me time, trust, and then trust in the process and knowing that, you know, those are going to fit. Eventually, it might take 5 years for a puzzle piece to fit, but when you get that aha moment, you don't ever forget it. And so that's what that represents. So the objectives for today is we're going to talk a little bit about Roger Hart's ladder of participation. I'll give you a little bit of background on what that is. And then we'll also talk about understanding the importance of shared decision making with families and youth, and some tips on how to do that. We are going to go over several different outreach strategies, but we're going to specifically talk about 3 that will help to gain access to family voices. And then we're going to learn how to apply outreach strategies into RIAC action plans. Oh, I forget I'm doing the slides. I was going to say next. All right, so we're going to introduce ourselves as presenters. And so Miss Tamarsha Beckman, take it away.
Hi, my name is Tamarsha Beckman, and I've been with RIAC off and on for 7 years. And how I come about being on RIAC was a family resource coordinator. She reached out to me when I was volunteering and asked if I would come to one of the meetings because they was looking for a parent rep. I was like, I'm not sure, but yeah, I can give it a try. And after then, I just been rolling with RIAC off and on. My lived experiences with, I have 2 children and with autism on the spectrum and anxiety disorder. And it was hard to get them diagnosed with the anxiety and the spectrum because every doctor didn't know what it was. They never really dealt with autism or anxiety disorders like this. So I had to pretty much keep going back and forth to the doctors, working with the insurance companies to make sure that they got the approval to get the testing done and all the great things like that. It takes time, but you just got to work with them and be patient. I also created Building Bridges and Connections, which is a nonprofit organization to reach out to the families in the community just like us, because they don't know about the information that's out here. So, and it's like, I felt like, okay, well, if I didn't know, I'm quite sure they don't know it. And it made it seem like the more I worked and laid and thought about it and sat there and pondered on it, I reached out to Joy and I said, Joy, I got an idea. She said, what is it? And I ran it by her and I said, Building Bridges and Connection. I want to be that person to build the bridge with all the agencies and make that connection to where our families can know what's out there for them to help them along the way. I'm also on a couple standing committees. I'm on the System Care 5 grant, Notice of Funding Opportunity Reviewer. I'm also a member of RIAC Service Array, Outreach, and Promotion Standing Committees. Trust me, it's fun. You need to get on a standing committee. I'm quite sure you'll love it. You learn a lot more than what you think you really didn't know about. Any questions?
Thank you, Tamarsha. That was great. Thanks for putting in a plug in for those standing committees. If you want to be on the Outreach and Promotion Standing Committee, look me and Tamarsha up. Okay.
Right. We can get you on a committee. If you're nothing else, you can go to RIAC. They always promoting a committee. Find one that you're good at.
That's right. Yep. Go with where your skills are. That's what I say. Miss Amanda.
Thank you, Joy. So good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Metcalf, and I'm the Family Leadership Coordinator for Kentucky Partnerships for Families and Children through the System Care 5 grant. That is a mouthful. So I wanted to kind of share a little bit about my lived experience and my background, just a little bit. I started my journey over 11 years ago when my family became involved in child welfare, in the child welfare system. And I was able to find such a great support system that really encouraged me to really give back to other families and start advocating for other families that are in my community. I provided peer support services for Cumberland River for about 8 years, working with families that were directly involved in the child welfare system, juvenile justice at our local Trillium Center, and absolutely loved it. Being able to provide support for families that were going through and navigating these systems and being able to share my lived experience to kind of help them navigate through. And then now in my current role as the Family Leadership Live, shout out to Dee Dee, whoop, whoop. Loving to advocate for families and just being a part of this team with Joy and Tamarsha. It was really exciting. So that's a little bit about me. Also, a little shout out to my family. I do have a family. I am a wife and a mother to 5 children. I always tell people, don't pray for me, come babysit. I'm so tired. I'm an avid Pokemon Go player, and I love coffee, daylight or dark. I always have it with me. I have bad internet, so you'll see me on here twice. In case something shuts off, I'll have a backup. So that is a little bit about myself, and I'll pass it over to Joy.
No, thanks, Amanda. I haven't played Pokemon Go. I got to give it a try. All right, so my name's Joy Varney, Family Engagement Coordinator. And as I was looking for a picture of me to put on there, I saw something more cuter. So I decided to put my grandson on there. Cute as a button, I couldn't help it. So I'm a mama and grandma of 3 grandchildren. The one on the picture is the youngest. I started my advocacy journey about 20 years ago. I have right now I have a son who is now an adult, 34 years old. However, when he was going into the 2nd or 3rd grade, he was having trouble with academics and schoolwork. And then before you know it, I ended up in special education, you know, around that IEP table and not really knowing what I was doing. I just thought that, wow, this is really nice that the school folks are coming together and helping. And I didn't realize it was law. I didn't realize that they had to take certain steps. So, but we learn as we grow as advocates. And then into his teens, his young adulthood, he was very athletic, and that's what he hung his hat on. But as in any sports, he got injured. And then when he went to the doctor and had it looked at, and then, you know, the old scenario goes, he gets the pain medication and off and running. And he said, you know, I knew as soon as I took it, I knew, and it just switched. And for some people that happens. So I am a certified family and adult peer support family because I walk the system with my son, but also an adult peer support specialist because I have substance use and behavioral health challenges. I've been in rehab treatment. And, you know, and I'm just here to say that people and families and you can and do recover. And myself, Amanda, and Tamarsha are living proof, as well as millions of other families out there on our resiliency. And then one thing that I'm fully convicted of is that I just really fully believe that people can and do get better. And that all kind of goes into that hope, because if you don't have hope, it's hard to get out of bed. And if I'm never with my son walking through the substance use, the addiction journey with him, I've never given up that hope on him. And that's what kept me going. So it's just a little bit about myself and a little bit about what landed me here today. And remember, if you have any questions, put it in chat, unmute. All right, I found this quote and I liked it. Call it a clan, call it a network, call it a tribe, call it a family. Whatever you call it, whoever you are, you need one. Families are big, small, extended, nuclear, and multi-generational, with 1 parent, 2 parents, and grandparents. We live under one roof or many. A family can be as temporary as a few weeks, as permanent as forever. We become part of a family by birth, adoption, marriage, or from a desire for mutual support. A family is culture unto itself, with different values and unique ways of realizing its dreams. Together, our families become the source of our rich cultural heritage and spiritual diversity. Our families create neighborhoods, communities, states, and nations. And this was written by Polly Arango with Family Voices in New Mexico. Family Voices is the statewide family organization in New Mexico. It's the sister agency, or Kentucky Partnership for Families and Children, is our statewide family network. And that's where Amanda currently resides. Okay, so what is the role of the parent representative? So, you know, we're gonna recruit, we're gonna get them activated, but heck, what do they do? You know, and so some of those roles would look like sharing their perspective on the system's strengths and needs, because families and youth have walked in a system. They truly know some of the barriers, some of the gaps, some of the services that are very valuable, and some of them that may need to be improved upon based on their experience walking through the system. Also, the role of the RIAC Parent Representative is to connect with other families in the community. One of our charges as a parent representative and as a youth representative is to bring back information from families and youth in the community back to RIAC. And so we're going to talk a little bit about today is how can we gain access to the families that we serve? How can we get their voices and bring it to the table? We're supposed to be voices for all families. And so when you have just one parent rep and a parent on and a youth rep and a youth aught, you get their perspective and their thoughts, but what is the greater themes that pop up? So just having access to our families. Prepare for RIAC meetings with a mentor. One of the things we really are trying at the state and in the regions is to really team up a mentor or an ally with the parent or youth rep. It helps in sustainability. It helps in retention. A lot of times we ask people to come and sit on a committee and, you know, they have no clue. I've been there before. You ever been asked to sit in a meeting and you sit there and you're like, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm not feeling very effective. What are they talking about? And so with our parents and youth, sometimes, you know, we need to help prepare them for the meeting. And that's before the meeting. You know, do you have any questions? Here's the agenda. Do you have an update? How can we help you with that update? Do you want to talk about it after the meeting? Are there any, you know, acronyms that were thrown out that you didn't understand? Did you feel something that you wanted to speak up about, but you didn't? Did you have a resource, you know, and didn't share it at that moment? And those mentors or allies really help support that parent or youth in sustaining on the RIAC and understanding what their role is and understanding what the purpose of RIAC serves. And so that is best practice. And that's what we are learning, is that we need to really stand by and support our parent and youth on RIAC or on any committees that they serve on. We can't just say, here you go, call me if you need me, I'm out. And because it just doesn't work. And, you know, what happens is they leave. And so, you know, they're like, I don't know, you know, because there's got to be something in it for them too. So also with the role of the RIAC parent representative is to partner with the parent rep alternate, and the same thing with the youth rep alternate, the youth and the youth rep. And I know a lot of the RIAC still need to get their alternates on board, and it is hard. I mean, it's a challenge, and that's why we're doing this, you know, training today. To come up with ways on how to recruit parents. But as you get that alternate on board, what the parent reps and the youth reps have told us through a survey is that they don't have a means to connect with one another. And so through the survey that the parents and youth on representatives on RIAC took, we have come up with some guidance around how are we going to make that connection, you know, doing warm handoffs, being able to you know, really mentor each other. And what's really exciting to me is to be able to partner with one another to really affect change. Because, you know, it just takes a few people to make change. And so, you know, just teaming together with your youth, youth rep and representative and your alternate is going to be, I don't know, it's going to be chef's kiss. It's going to be really cool when we get there. And some of you might already be. So another role of the RIAC parent representative is to participate in RIAC and SEAC subcommittees. You know, oftentimes when you have those monthly meetings, if you don't have some working meeting in between, you're just really meeting to meet every month. And so there's got to be some work in between that time for those committees to be able to create the product of the prior meeting. So there's a lot of subcommittees that RIAC and SEAC has. As Tamarsha was saying, there's the subcommittees of SEAC. If you're interested, Lee Taylor is the person to reach out to. She'll give you the times or the dates and what they are and some descriptions of them. And then with the RIAC subcommittees, there's a lot of partnership that goes on. Between members and to create initiatives and events. And so the parents and youth need to be integrated into those subcommittees so that they can be a part of the planning and the decision making. So it's really important that our parents and youth get in those subcommittees to just kind of expose sometimes to what it's like, and so that they can share their input. So provide monthly parent updates. I know that we do updates at RIAC meetings. And so there's some times where parents are new and youth might be new. And so they might be a little intimidated to speak up. But that is one of their roles. A lot of times they're out in the community. They found resources. They've been to a training, and so that they can be able to share that back into to the RIAC about what they've done, and maybe the RIAC can take some of that information and create some outcomes with it as well. So another role of the RIAC parent representative is to attend conferences, trainings, and workshops. And that is for, skill development. We're asking families and youth to understand mental health, advocacy, and all these are learned through trainings and workshops and conferences. So we always encourage the RIACs and encourage the parent and youth representatives that when they see a conference or training and workshop that they're interested in, to join it, to participate in it. And one of the great things about that is, as they learn mental health language and just all that it entails, when they're sitting on a committee meeting and they hear that same language that they might have heard at a training last week, and you feel like you've got some purpose and like, I learned about that and I know what that's about. And it makes you feel more effective. It makes you feel like you can contribute better. And then last but not least, participate in the parent and youth monthly meetings. We've been hosting these since September of 2020. We just had one last night. And last night, the topic was strategic storytelling. We often ask our parents and youth to quote unquote share their lived experience, but we sometimes forget to give them guidance around what that looks like. And so yesterday we were able to share guidance and some structure to it. Some undersharing, oversharing, the risks, the benefits, the boundaries. So we talked about that yesterday, and it really is like one of the reasons for the parent and youth meetings is to help in the development and the networking of the parent and youth representatives. And we have, perhaps two in each region, and it's, a parent rep, alternate youth rep, youth alternate, so 4. But and you also kind of feel like an island into yourself, and then to have people together to share that you're not alone and you guys are all doing the same thing. Like you all might be totally different in diversity and in your values, but you all have that same mission, or parents and youth have that same mission of helping and wanting to make a difference. So I believe that parent and youth monthly meetings is helpful for that cause.
Joy, you have a question in the chat.
Okay.
You have a calendar or information about those monthly parent and youth meetings that the LRCs can share with theirs?
That's a great idea. And so, yeah, because we want to be able to support the LRCs and, with peer supports, we want to provide support to the supervisors. But I can create a count. I tell you, it's on the first Thursdays of the month. at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. But we can create calendar. I can send the LRCs an invite so that they know it's coming, or also, yeah, to help encourage the parents and youth representatives to come and attend, because it is beneficial. And some, there's some folks that are really regular and other folks who might be still a little intimidated and might need that extra bit of encouragement to come. So yes, we can definitely create a calendar and send that out. Thank you for asking. And I'm going to write it down because my memory is shot getting in my old age. Okay. Any other questions about that before we move forward?
You have another question in the chat, Joy.
Okay.
It looks like it may be a comment that may be helpful to help LRCs to give a friendly reminder to youth and parent reps.
Yes. Yes. Yep. A good reminder. Yep. That's right. And encouragement. And if when you as an LRC, would say, hey, that youth parent meeting is tomorrow night, and it just shows too that you care. That you care. So thank you for that. We will get that out.
And attending the parent meeting, it is very useful because we learned last night on the strategies of giving out information to red, yellow, and green light, which means red means you're giving out too much, yellow is you might can get away with it, green you can go with it.
And when to use. And it's complex because you got to know when to use it and when not to, you got to kind of know that. And so with yesterday's training, it's not a spray and pray, like I call it. You spray it and you pray something sticks. We're going to continue, and we're laying the foundation now so that we can continue on with it as we coach and support peers or parents and youth in their RIAC and other committee journeys. All right. So why partnering with parents, I'm going to say, and youth matter. The voice of lived experience may highlight system and practice strengths and improvement needs. For example, that might look like inconsistent processes, communication gaps, a service needs readily and not readily available. And that unique perspective on building some program and policy development. Share, what would work, what would have helped my family, what policies might help my families. Get parents and youth in the policy decision making. Share with them policies. Get them used to policies, and so it doesn't sound so intimidating. So innovative ideas with the potential to improve outcomes for families and youth. So we like to kind of think outside of the box, and parents and youth who are in the community and understand their culture in their community can create those innovative ideas that we might have not even thought about sitting around that table. And then also a context and feedback that reflect the needs of the community or the community the agency serves. So, getting that feedback to the RIAC so that parents can give that feedback to the RIAC about the needs of the community. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we can get that feedback through different outreach methods. And because it's the feedback so that we can create change. And then it also for accountability and transparency to the process. The more accountable and transparent we are as a committee, as a RIAC, the safer that a parent's going to feel. And so just to keep those in mind. And so there's no surprises that might fall on a family or a youth that could possibly re-traumatize. And that's just best practice.
Hey, Joy, before we move on, there was a question in the chat box, and I know Amanda answered it, but I didn't know if you guys wanted to go into a little bit more detail. It was about the stipends for attending the monthly parent and youth calls. Just maybe the amount of that stipend and just a little bit of what that process is.
Sure. Amanda, you want to talk about that?
Yes. Can you hear me? Joy?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Making sure. It's frozen. So stipend by
Hey, Amanda.
Can you hear me
Amanda.
now?
No, here, I'll go ahead and share.
Thank you, Joy.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm sorry, Amanda. So the compensation that families and youth get is $25 for their time, effort, commitment in attending. The process is that there's a timesheet that KPFC, Kentucky Partnerships for Families and Children, gives to the parent representatives for this meeting, and they fill in their time and they submit it back to Carol Cecil, who is the executive director at KPFC. And so that is how that's how that process works. It is currently being funded, that the compensation through System of Care 5 now. And so as we continue on with these meetings, we're thinking about, sustainability and how we can keep these groups going after System of Care 5 grants are done. I hope I was able to answer your question. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about Hart's ladder. I don't know if anybody's heard about it, and we're just going to, there's a lot to it. It looks very complex, but I'm going to go over it. I'm going to try to explain it the best I can, and we'll be sending you out these slides, and I'll have additional resources for you so that you'll have it to look back over. And so the Rogers Hart is the original founder of Hart's ladder, and he did an illustration of the ladder of children's participation at that time. And the model features 8 rungs that describe the characteristics associated with different levels of decision-making and policy and such. So as you look on here, and boy, does that look like a lot. I'm going to give you a minute to absorb it. But this is the ladder that he created. And I just want to mention that this ladder isn't a hierarchy. You don't go from one step to another, but really, well, you can go to one step to another, but it's not a cut and dry tool. It really is simply an outline to show you where your families and youth are in your programs. So if you have a program and you want to know, hey, are families and youth involved in the planning? And you can kind of look at this ladder and you can see where you are and you can see where you want to go. And it's not a hierarchy that every program or every committee is going to have to reach that top rung of young people and adults shared decision making. Sometimes it might come to that, but other programs or projects, you might just need to consult with a parent or a youth, or you could, inform them of what's happening. So it doesn't necessarily have to go higher up. But what you do want to take care, or what you want to be careful of, is the 3 bottom rungs of, and these are the non-participatory, those are the non-participatory ways that you folks get people on committees and they don't get to participate. And that looks like manipulation, which occurs when families and youth do not understand the issues motivating a process of their role in that process. So, and as an example that they use is a publication uses young people's cartoons. However, the publication is written by adults. And so, you know, the young person or the family who is doing the cartoon doesn't realize that it might be going out for publication, or they didn't even realize why they were drawing it or why they were sharing that. So they didn't really have a clue. They were asked to do something and they did it. So decoration is when young people take part in an event in a very limited capacity and have no role in the decision making. And so I think about, you know, maybe an awards dinner, and there's families and youth being honored for their time and commitment, but the parents and youth didn't get say so in the planning or the decision making or the location. So they're told, you know, this is what it is, show up. And so that is more of a form of decoration. And then tokenism, I think a lot of us go into tokenism and we don't even mean to. Tokenism is participation for show, where young people or families have little or no influence, even among well-intentioned agencies. Tokenism is common when engaging underrepresented groups, including families and youth. It can be difficult to avoid when agency-led organizations want input from a youth or family without empowering them in the decision-making. And sometimes we do that and we don't mean to. You know, hey, can you be a parent member on the RIAC? It's mandated and we need somebody. And then boom, you're sitting there, but you don't understand your role. You don't understand your responsibility. You're there so that people can check off that box to say, hey, there's a parent here. And so there's not really a participation, like there's no opportunity for shared decision-making or to be consulted. It's just truly, you know, you're there keeping the chair warm, as we called it. So again, this ladder is, again, in theory, it's not hierarchy. And with this, you can share or, you know, figure out which level your project is on and what level you might want to have it at. And so there's some good resources about Hart's ladder. There is some debate about it. It was written in 1992. A lot of people still use it, but there's some debate about it because it's so complex and it's not linear. And so if you guys wanted to do research on it, I can send it out as well. So you can just look over that because it is complex, but if you know some of just the basic understanding of it, it'll help you become more aware of including your families and youth in the decision-making process. And it's very empowering. It's very empowering because a lot of times our families and youth in service are often told what to do and how to do it, where to stand, where to sit, where to go, when to be there. And when you ask them what they want to do or what their thoughts are about it, you know, I've seen parents go, you're asking me that? Well, I don't know, because they never really got a chance to think about it. You know, and sometimes providers aren't aware to even have it in their mind to ask, you know, well, what do you think? And so we're trying to change that a little bit to at least be aware, at least bring that paradigm shift of in the projects in the program, where are the family and youth? Are they integrated? How can we help get them there better? Let's look this up. Where do we want to go? Where are we now? Where do we want to be? So this is in theory again. So I'll send you out the resources for that. I know that's a lot of information. I like the examples right here because I like examples. It kind of helps to kind of, you know, put the puzzle pieces together. So are there any questions before I move on?
So there was one in the chat box that Amanda has answered, but just so everybody can hear it. Michelle asked, what recommendations do you have when working with a representative that has significant barriers outside of the scope you were able to provide them? And so, Amanda, do you want to go ahead and, I know you answered that in the chat, but do you just want to talk about that out loud?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, can you hear me now? Oh, thank goodness. Okay. So I was just saying that maybe getting them hooked up with a peer support specialist. You know, peers have that lived experience in navigating, you know, a lot of those barriers, finding transportation, food assistance, applying for housing, and having that additional support in between RIAC meetings can be so beneficial for that parent. So one of the suggestions I thought might help a little bit. I didn't know if anybody else had anything that they thought of that might be beneficial.
Thank you, Amanda. And when you talked about peer support, I'm also thinking about the KPFC peer support centers. You know, in your agency, you might not have a peer support specialist, or, you know, they're off running in all kinds of different directions. But KPFC does have peer support centers that will do outreach, and they might very well be able to work with, you know, your parent or your representative to help build those skills. All right, so we talk a little bit about how to empower families and young people as decision makers. Like, what are some of the things practitioners can do to help that process along? I guess number one, and that's just to be aware of it. Just being aware of it can change the whole trajectory. Can't say that word. Of the outcomes. So just being aware is the first step. Was it crawl, walk, run? Is what I like to say. So allow families and youth to define their own engagement. So engagement to me might look like different from you. What might look, you know, as far as engagement to Tamarsha might not look like that to Amanda, or, you know, so let families and youth define how engaged they want to be. Define like, and build that up by their skills. And so, you know, everybody has their strength. And so let them find their niche if possible. If they're good at outreach and you've got a subcommittee about being able to go out there in the community, you'll have families and parents more engaged, but let them define that. Expand roles beyond representatives. Young people can, and families can do more than have a seat at the table. Further their voice and impact by engaging youth in planning and implementing and evaluating your organization's work. So take it out of RIAC sometimes and look at the bigger picture of your organization and get families and youth feedback. Avoid extremely narrow roles, such as presenting at a conference without having meaningfully contributed to the presentation or program being shared. So when, you know, families are able, they can make that decision together, they can, you know, create the training together. And so the roles are evened out and everybody has their part, and each part is same in length and fair. So trust families and youth to rise to high expectations rather than underestimating their potential, you know, and resiliency isn't getting over something that is wrong. It's really, resiliency is having, you know, something going on and you could be knocked to your knees, but still continuing to go on. And so, you know, just to know that our families are resilient and to have those high expectations of them, and then that is okay. And, you know, that our families and youth will rise to the occasion. So listen more than you speak. Really try to hear what families and youth are saying. Really try to come from their perspective. You know, what do they say about empathy? You know, just trying to put your, you know, your shoe on the other foot, you know, trying to wear their shoes to see, you know, a little bit about what they could be feeling and what they could be going through. So listen more than you speak, and empower families and young people by considering the language you use to describe them. Oftentimes our language can either make or break stigma. And so we got to be really careful how we use language around our families and youth to describe our families and youth. And we really want to be strength-based. There is a whole training on language, and it's really cool. And it really does give you some in-depth insight into, you know, what it is and what that looks like. Dogs are barking. All right, guys, if you don't mind, and if you have access to a phone, would you please appease me for a second? And can you have to hold your camera. You don't have to click it, and it should take you to the link. And I've got 2 polls. Slido will give you 3 free polls. So I've got 3. I've got 2 now and 1 for later. Can you give me the thumbs up if you can see it, Vanessa or anybody? Oh, thank God. Thank you. Okay. So first poll. Thank you, Lee. When families and youth, and this is from what we talked about a little bit, when families and youth act as consultants for adults in a manner which has great integrity. The project is designed and run by adults, but families and youth understand the process and their opinions are treated seriously. So what is your answer? Your best guess? Is that tokenism, consulted and informed, or adult initiated shared decisions with young people? What do y'all think? We've got 3 people so far. Okay. Okay, a few more people. All right, well, let's see. Can you see the poll? Can you see the results? Okay, Vanessa, thank you.
Yes.
All righty. So, and yay, you guys got it. Or no, it is. Sorry about that. So the answer is consulted and informed. So when youth act as consultants, it differs a little bit from that adult initiated where shared decisions are made, but that youth are consulted in a manner where their feedback is taken seriously and is incorporated into the planning, but there might have not been shared decision making with that consultation. So if that makes sense. So, you know, the adult initiated shared decisions with young people is the agency creates like a program that the parents and youth are a part of that implementation, that those shared decisions are made, that the young people and families take off with it, and the agency and adults help support that in their shared decision making. The consulted and informed, you know, for an example, we've brought a youth representative into another RIAC to be able to consult with some of their lived experience and then inform. So it's a little bit different. And so I think that is why, as we send out these resources, just to be able to take a look and wrap your head around it just a little bit. And it is complex. Any questions about that one? Thank you all. Okay, so one more. And I hope I can do multiple choice on here as far as answer more than one. But what rungs on the ladder should be avoided because they are non-participatory? So what rungs on the ladder should be avoided because they're non-participatory? Can I get a few more people answer? Thank you. All right, so yes, what you need to stay away from or try your best to is that decoration and the tokenism. Those are, you know, warm bodies filling the seat. with no input, no decision-making, not even knowing what's going on. And those are the rungs of the ladder that you want to try to avoid. So we will send you out the resource to this so that you can look at it as you decide on your program and where you think it needs to be and where it is. And if you have families and youth, invite them around the table and see what their input is and ask them where they think you are based on that ladder. So any questions? All right. Miss Tamarsha.
Wise access to family is important. Bringing families' voices back to RIAC about community strengths and needs. Sharing RIAC resource with families and partners in the community. Letting families know that they are not alone. So with that one, you got to be able to want to get out and volunteer, get in the community to find out the needs. That means you can do a resource booth. You need to find out something or volunteer in a school because I'm quite sure you can find information out if you had a IEP meeting or you volunteering in the Family Resource Center. You're going to find out the needs of the family members or families. And that's the information that you bring back to RIAC and let them know, hey, the community needs this type of information, or if they're looking for examples. Some might need gas to get to their mental health appointments. Some might need food. It's just letting them know that they're not alone, that it's a lot of people that's with them, but they just got to have that boost of information. And that's where working with your community partners at the RIAC table comes into play.
Thank you, Tamarsha. And I think a lot of parents and youth that I've talked to, they say, you know, I didn't know there were any resources. I didn't even know where to begin to look, you know, and so being able to share those resources out might hit the right person at the right time, and it could, like, you know, change their whole, you know, outcome. So to have those resources readily available to families and partners can be life-changing for some folks. And those are the things that we might not ever know about. We might not ever know the life we changed by handing one person a flyer, but daggone it, you know, it changes people's lives, and it can. And just, you know, letting others know that they're not alone. Thank you, Tamarsha. Hey, Amanda, I don't know if you're on.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Joy?
A little bit.
Oh my goodness. Can you
Yeah.
hear me now? What about now?
You're kind of cutting in and out. Do you want me to go ahead and go over it real quick?
Yes.
Amanda, bless her heart, she's on her phone and the computer. You know, and so welcome to technology. I'm sorry that you got to hear me talking so much. So recruitment. So now that we got an understanding of how to integrate and involve parents in decision making, some of the tips on, you know, what that might look like, how do we recruit parents and youth and parent alternates? So we just come up with a few little, well, not few little, but we've come up with some strategies that you can use when doing your recruiting. So having information posted at community events. So when your agency, if you go to health fairs, you know, back to school bashes, libraries, community like music and art events, to have your marketing material, your parent representative information out and available so families can pick up and grab it, and also have a family or youth there to help talk to them about what the role is, and also to let some families know that they're not alone. Social media. You can also recruit by I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the social media here in just a few minutes, but you know, an innovative way that you guys could recruit parent and youth reps is to create a video on YouTube. Like YouTube has a lot of followers, and you might be able to capture an audience of youth and parents that you might have never ever thought about on YouTube. I'm not a YouTuber, and to me it sounds intimidating, but you know, I guess sometimes we just got to get out of our comfort zone, or we look to another youth to say, hey, you got to help us out with this because we're a little lost. Send updates on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Discord, Instagram, and we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like, and solicit input through online survey tools. Tamarsha, when she's doing her resource booths, she has survey to be able to get and elicit feedback from parents and youth. And then we're creating right now, with the help of UK HDI, the Human Development Institute, a community survey that we'll be able to gain feedback from parents and youth in real time through tablets and QR codes. So that's going to be really cool. So host activities. When your agency hosts activities, try to recruit families and youth there. You know, at picnics, holiday parties, host family social and recreational activities where parents will come and put out your recruitment material there, and just be aware, and don't forget to ask people. So what do they need supports for recruitment of parent and youth reps to be able to attend, or if they're creating parent support groups? You know, it's a great way to recruit parents and youth within that parent support group. So childcare with licensed provider will increase accessibility, transportation for those who, especially in the rural community, to provide a snack or light meal and have it in a non-threatening location. When I was working at 7 counties back in the early 2000s, we held parent support groups in 6 of the 7 counties, and we didn't make one of them at the mental health center because we figured parents and youth had enough. They didn't want to walk back in there. They didn't have to. So we had them at the library and the community action agency and faith-based community. So more where it's community, and you'll get more folks there. Great way to be able to recruit. Diversity. Understand and respect the community's traditional knowledge and wisdom about how mental health is viewed. In one area, it can, you know, mental health is not to be, you know, talked about. And in another area, it's, you know, it could be viewed as talking freely. There's an example that I heard about culture and the views on mental health. And I hope I don't chop this up. But in the US, in the Western culture, you know, when a person has schizophrenia, you know, it and is diagnosed, it is not, you know, it's a challenge, and people really suffer, and the stigma and the barriers to services. And so sometimes that struggle will happen. And so, but for another culture, let's say in the Indian culture, that having schizophrenia is a sign of a rebirth or empowerment. And so it is a good thing in their culture. And so just to see those dynamics and how each culture kind of plays out. And when we talk about culture, we even talk about values, different values, you know, and different visions. So be aware of the diversity, and you want a diverse group on your RIAC, because the more diversity you have, the more input and perspective you're going to gain. So incentives, I always say, you know, what's in it for me? Like, you know, what's it going to be? What's in it for me? And so as we provide incentives for participation, compensation, time, compensate for energy, compensate for effort and their expertise, their lived examples need to be compensated. And there's different ways that, you know, as a RIAC or an agency that you can do that. And those are the tangible like incentives. But then also if we give families a meaningful role sitting around that table where they do have decision-making capabilities and they do know what is going on, you feel more fulfilled, like you feel valued, you feel like you have a purpose, and that in itself is an incentive to continue to come. So while those compensation of the $25 check or the gift card to attend, that is needed, but also the purpose of why they're there. It's got to hit that heartstring, guys, because if it's not, it's kind of, it's hard to keep people around. There's got to be something in it that keeps people. So giving them meaningful roles. If you're doing a subcommittee, try to figure out, asking what the reps and youth like, what do you like to do? What are you good at? We've got this subcommittee going on. Here's some of the roles we need, or here's some of the tasks that we need to get done. What part are you, do you feel comfortable about? And do you mind spearheading it? So things like that. And then promotion, basically to place flyers and brochures and locations where families naturally visit, such as barber shops and grocery stores. Put them out in those mainstream areas, recruitment flyers, information on parent and youth reps, information on your events. Put them out there. Word of mouth and a good flyer can go a long way. And it might sound antiquated in this digital world that we live in now, but it works. So place those flyers in the mainstream areas where communities go to, because folks with mental health challenges and youth who are struggling, we're everywhere. We're just not in the system. So put us in there, put that out there so that we can have access to the opportunities that are available. Partners. So you want to get good partners and ask them, can they help you recruit parent and youth reps? Advocacy organization, have a host of parents and youth leaders who are there and building their skills, to ask them if they can help identify. They might be able to help you put something out on social media. Faith-based communities, it's sometimes what we lack around. Sometimes the RIAC cables is, but partnering with the faith-based, or even those secondary institutions, going into colleges and social work, fields, and chemical dependency, substance use, curriculums and classes. Put your information there, because again, we are everywhere. And then partner with those agencies to see if they do have anybody that they can help you identify. And then lastly, appreciate and celebrate the successes and the milestones of families and youth, and what they've accomplished in their tenure and the service that you provide them. Sometimes I think a lot of times when we're in service and as a parent that walked through the system, we feel already like we've done wrong, that something that I've done has made this happen. And so you're already feeling the shame and the guilt and the worry and the fear. But celebrate families as they find out what's wrong and not wrong, when they do something that that benefits in their recovery. Like when you see them doing something and hitting those milestones, celebrate it. And it could just be something like, I noticed that you did that. I am so proud of you. That must have been really hard. Thank you so much for that. It could be a verbal appreciation, or you could put it on your Facebook, or with the parents' permission, of course, but or you can do other things with that to show your appreciation. So keep that in mind too. So 2 things to keep in mind if you leave with anything today: be aware of always trying to recruit, and just be aware of it when you're around different committees, different agencies, when you're out in the community. Be aware of the recruitment. And then also to celebrate and appreciate those small successes. So, all right. So what is this? kind of gives us a little more information on, kind of breaks down a little bit about what we were talking about, recruiting and engaging parents. So I pulled this slide up from SAMHSA, really, it's about being able to recruit parents, and it kind of breaks down the what activities need to take place depending on what your goal looks like. So you got to think, and you got to wonder as a RIAC, what is your main goal of your outreach? Is it to inform people? Is it to consult and get their feedback? Is it to get people involved? You know, what does that look like? And, you know, deciding as a group what success would look like is key too, so that you can celebrate the milestones, and know where you might need to improve a little bit. But what would success look like to you, and make that your goal? So let's talk a little bit about outreach to inform, and that really means just getting the word out. So when you inform, you're getting that word out. So the information itself has to be really clear, so that people can read it and know what it's about. And so as you're recruiting, you can put your information about your program or recruiting parent or youth leaders on your websites, at kiosks, you know, media releases, feature stories, fairs and events, open houses, utilizing fact sheets, brochures, and leaflets. Then you can also do, if you're doing outreach to consult with people, and that consulting is really just getting their opinion, and it's a two-way conversation. But the most important direction is from the community, the parents and leaders, back to you as the agency. So you're going to consult, they're going to give you feedback, and then you're going to take that back and you're going to utilize it to break down barriers and change outcomes. And some ways that you can do that to consult is focus group, do surveys, face-to-face interviews. And I've just got a statement at the very bottom. It says patient experience trackers. I don't like the word patients. I know that they used to use it in the old days, but patients really label people. It really does. And oftentimes in systems, we try to treat the illness, the patient, and we don't see the patient as a whole individual with dreams and goals and aspirations and families and gifts. So I'm just going to put that out there. That's some of the language that you got to be careful of. So if you want to involve more parents and youth into, you want to do code lead workshops together, present at conferences together. Parents and youth can serve as expert panelists, facilitate groups, and develop, review, and disseminate your marketing materials. And so they could be instrumental in helping that. If you want to collaborate and find more ways and more opportunities to broaden your network and outreach, you can talk to advisory groups, network, and your peer supporters. Go to support groups, try to find family advisory councils to talk to, youth advisory councils to be able to share your opportunities, and liaison to provider and policy groups. So just to really be able to collaborate and work with these groups that have our population of focus, so that they can know the opportunities are available. And most of all, to recruiting, we just really want to help empower our families, to give them, decision-making powers, hire parents and youth with lived experience in roles of peer support, and just help them to be leaders by, sharing the example and just helping to create those decision-making processes. And at the bottom of all that, it says safety, transparency, and trust, empowerment, choice, collaboration, mutuality, culturally responsive, and peer support. Those are the system of care, some of the system of care values and principles that we can live by to help us in that recruiting effort. So if we ever wonder if we're going astray, we can look back at those principles and some of those values to kind of get us back on track. All righty. Shoo-wee. Tamarsha, are there any questions?
Hold on, Joy. You might have one. And no, you don't have no questions in the
Okay.
comment. Parent representative and public relations. One, you need business cards. All parent and youth reps need business cards. That's a given, because when you go out in public, you never know who's gonna need one, and you can just hand it to them. Email. You can create your own RIAC email on Gmail. I did. Mine is parentrep.react@gmail.com. It's very easy to do. The name tags, you can buy the little cheap name tags at Walmart, Dollar Tree, and just write your name on there. Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm the representative for RIAC. You can put that on there. RIAC members and resource and promotional items. This is where you get your items from. You get your items from your group at RIAC. You get with your peer support person, get information from them. You get information from your mental health. Everybody that sits around that RIAC table, you get information and resources from. So when you go to do a resource booth or you in the community, you have it to give out. Keep a flyer. Flyers come in handy. If you don't have your business card, have a flyer. You can give a flyer out just as well with your name, email, and phone number on there. That way, if they need something, they can reach out to you. Parent rep and application. I'm mad about this one. I forget my folder at home with that one. If I'm in public and I'm not doing an event, I forget my application after I done talk to a parent. And they be like, well, do you have any information? So I just give them my phone number to tell them to call me, and I'll shoot them over an email. The RIAC tablecloth, that's something you will have to talk to with your RIAC, because sometimes it's hard to have them and sometimes it's not, depending on the area that you're in. And parent representative questionnaire, every parent needs to have that on hand. So if you get asked what is RIAC, you can tell them what it is. They can see it. They can ask you any questions and you have the answers right there in front of you. And you can always refer back to it. And if you don't know nothing, reach out to your point of contact person. They should be able to help you in any type of way and letting you know, hey, this is what it is, or have them contact me and we can go through the process of whatever it might be for them to get hired on as a backup alternate or whatever the process may be.
Thank you, Tamarsha. Yeah, we're given the roles of being we're given the roles of being able to be the voice of all families in our region. But when we're out in the community and we don't have any tangible information to give, it's really hard to try to explain something on the cuff. And so, you know, some ideas, we're putting all things RIAC on a QR code on the back of a business card and having all that information, the application, the frequently asked questions, all that in one place, so families and you can take a look at that and understand a little bit better about what RIAC is.
Social media. This could be your biggest break of all times. For me, whenever Vanessa or Lee sends me anything that has a flyer attached to it, I post it on social media, because you never know who's going to see it and what family member is going to need it. Majority of every family member has some type of social media. And the ones that's out there, I absolutely love it, because with building bridges and connections, I've started a Facebook page, I have an Instagram page, I have a Snapchat page, and I also have a TikTok page. And I post all the flyers on there and I share them out to community groups. And in those community groups, between all of my social media, I have reached 9,000 people with those. And that could help you in multiple ways. I have gotten inboxes on information, or I have my phone number on the website so they can text me or call me. Hey, can you tell me how to go about doing this, or who do I need to contact about this service, or can you tell me more about this? And it could be trainings, it can be multiple things that they might want to know about. Use social media to your benefit. I'm telling you, you will be amazed at how many people look at social media and go into it and be like, hey, I didn't know this exists. Like I said, the popular ones are Facebook. I'm not a YouTuber. That's not me. The WhatsApp app, I don't really know much about it, but you can send stuff on it as well. You can also send stuff on Instagram. Instagram and Facebook is pretty much the same. You can make storylines, reels, and you can just put it out there, and your reels can go virtual and you not even know it, because it's shared, and it's shared multiple times. It can be shared from Facebook to Instagram or Instagram to Facebook. TikTok it's like a reel as well. You can do it as a reel and make a story out of it. And you can share it, and you can get multiple followers, and you can share information that way. But you just got to be willing to put in the work to do it, to get the information out there to them. Anytime they send you any information with a flyer attached to it, take it and post it on social media and run with it. Because you never know who's looking at it or who might need the information. On to Amanda, word of mouth.
Thank
Any
you, Tamarsha. Okay, can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Oh, so good. Thank you. Okay, so let's take a quick look at word of mouth. Word of mouth is such a great way to get the word out that you are looking for a parent rep and an alternate. And this is actually one of my favorites. So we're thinking about providers such as case managers and peer specialists, service coordinators. They can identify the families that they work with. I was identified by a peer support specialist and, began my journey of advocating for other families in my community. And I was able to become a parent rep on RIAC. So that, and then giving parent reps access to families in the community to really share about RIAC and the community partners. They can get that information straight to the families. And then word of mouth is just a great strategy to use. A lot of parents find out about RIAC through their therapists, case managers, peer support specialists, service coordinators. And the conversation usually starts with someone saying, hey, I know of this committee or RIAC that is looking for a parent that has some lived experience in navigating through these systems. Would you be interested? That is how a lot of the parents, myself included, really got their start in advocacy. So word of mouth can be so beneficial, and just sharing this with your staff and colleagues and families that you know to get the word out there.
And then I think one of the things about word of mouth is trust. If you have one person that you trust sharing with another person that this is an opportunity, they're more likely to be able to engage in that. So I think word of mouth really helps that relationship, especially when that person is trusting. So a little bit more about written information. We kind of went over this. This is some of the stuff you're going to need to be able, that might be able to help in your recruitment. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Here's some of the written material. And I know that Lee has another parent recruitment flyer as well. This is one that I helped Donnie Ray at Mountain Comp with when he was when their RIAC was identifying a parent representative. And then there's this frequently asked questions that would be good, you know, to have out on the table too. So when people are like, well, what is it? You'll be able to share more information. And so those the written material is really, really important. The written material and word of mouth is so important, and it is so effective even in this digital time. So all righty. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about it. For example, if you did want to find, and this is hypothetical, this is all theory, I made this yesterday, so this is not something that you guys have to do at all. I was just kind of creating a recruitment action plan so that if you wanted to put one in your action plan, you might see what it looks like. So I put the area focuses identifying a parent rep alternate. And then the goal is to utilize recruitment strategies to expand outreach for potential parent rep alternates. And so how are we going to get there? Create social media lists with RIAC member agencies that currently have strong social media presence by July 5th, 2022. And it's SMART goals, so you want to be time specific and good stuff like that. Objective 2, partner with parent and youth reps to host resource booths at 3 community events to engage and involve families and youth. And so the evaluation plan, social media analytics tools to capture number of people reached, liked, shared, and viewed. So, you know, we want to use data to be able to inform us of how it's going. So, I thought the analytics tools would be a good use. And I'm sure as we, you know, if you guys brainstorm this, there could be all kinds of other things like that too, other evaluation plans. So under the activity description, I wrote identify which RIAC agencies have a strong media platform, a strong social media platform that could help with recruiting efforts. Sometimes when you're in systems, like there's a whole big process to just post one thing, like it's got to go red tape, you know, lots of red tape. But if you can hook up with a RIAC agency that has already been through that red tape, and so you don't have to create anything, you can just kind of put it on the heels of what's already been created and get your info out that way. So you don't have to create anything, but maybe there is somebody that or an agency that already has a strong platform. So that can just be an idea. Required resources, contact list of RIAC members and survey those who are doing social media well. So that might be the first step. And there is a guide. It's a social media checklist. When you're recruiting families and youth, it comes from Fresla, and I had it, and I will send that out because that's really good. It kind of gives you like some detail about what to ask agencies as they do your recruitment. It's a simple checklist. I'll send it out. Whoops, sorry. And then the next one, obtain a list of community events, festivals, and health fairs. And then what are we going to need? And I was looking at it a little bit last night. I'm like, gosh, how do you get all the community events going on? Like, how does one find that, you know, in the newspaper and all that good stuff? But there's apps too that will help you identify local stuff coming up in your community. And so, what are we going to need? Apps and websites to discover local and regional activities. And the desired outcome is to identify 3 of those community events to set up resource booths with parent and youth reps with recruiting materials to recruit other families and youth to RIAC. Data sources utilized. Eventbrite gives you analytics. Facebook, Nextdoor, like a local timeout. Those are some of the apps or the websites that will give you that information as far as what's going on in the community. And I'm sure they have the analytics too to share, you know, what your feedback rate was. And then barriers, COVID, And then not having some of those materials handy could be a real barrier too. So I'm a big proponent of it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So, you know, if we arm our families and youth with the right material so that when they go to a booth or they go in the community, they have it. And when someone says, what's a parent rep do? They can whip it out, you know, and say, this is what we do. Here it is. And it could make a difference in your recruitment. All right, you guys, I have one more slide. Oh, we got 5 minutes left, the perfect timing. If you could just take or scan that. And when you see it, Vanessa, will you give me the thumbs up? So.
Joy, I see it, but I just clicked on it and it didn't have questions. So let me try it again. Hold on.
What about now?
Oh, hold on. Let me do it again. There we go. Up, there we are. Perfect.
All right, so this is just a word cloud, y'all. So as you thought about, and I know there's a lot of information today kind of thrown at you. But from listening a little bit and from what you learned today, what will you try in your recruiting and engagement efforts? It could be a few words, it could be, you know, but just jot down a couple of things or one thing, a strategy that you learned today that you might try in your recruiting and engagement efforts of families and youth in your community. So we got flyers, social media, word of mouth, a couple of word of mouth, sharing. What other strategies or what have you learned today that was maybe an aha moment even? Look, there we go. Equipping parents and youth with materials. Thank you. 2 ears and 1 mouth. Boy, is that hard to do sometimes, isn't it? Sometimes you got to tell yourself 2 ears and 1 mouth before you go into a conversation. That's what I have to do. Trying to get flyers and FAQ on more social media sites, resource booths, family events. Yeah, so, you know, just be mindful of all those events. If your agency isn't the one doing the event, then you can certainly take the flyers to agencies who are doing the event and put materials on their table, you know. So that's another idea, and flyers. So I thank you for appeasing me and doing this word cloud. I thank you for being here today. We've got about 2 minutes left, and wonder if there's any questions or comments or resources that you would like that we can share back with you in addition to today's information. Thank you, you all. Appreciate it.
Wonderful job, everyone. Joy, Tamarsha, Amanda, you all did wonderful.
Oh, thanks, Amber. Appreciate that feedback.
Yes, I want to thank you guys for coming this morning and for sharing this information with us. And I want to thank you guys for spending your Friday morning with us too, for everybody that participated and provided feedback. I do have a question for you all, Joy. Would you all be interested in sharing your PowerPoint, and I can send that out to the participants that were on the session today?
Yes, I will send out the PowerPoint. I'll send out information on Hart's ladder, and I'll send out that social media checklist that agencies can use when they're asking other agencies about their social media, like what they're doing well. So that'll be